We're jingle. Hey everybody, it's Thursday at 3 o'clock and you're watching
Live at Epiphan.
Epiphan at Live.
Yeah, we were just discussing how we don't have a jingle yet, but we're still, we still need that. So if anyone has the skills to write a jingle, since apparently our staff can't be bothered, then, please submit that. I'm going to mute my laptop here. We were playing with all kinds of audio
coming in on the
problems.
headphones now? Oh
Anyway.
man, so again, this is episode 103. Today we're talking about NDI video and what do you need to know, what you need to know, what we didn't know at the beginning of the day, what we know now.
What we didn't know 30 minutes ago as everything fell apart and we rebuilt it all from scratch.
It actually started falling apart about 90 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's true.
Fair.
That's true.
Things started coming together about 30 minutes
led
ago.
to all kinds of crazy things here with audio and things not muted the way they're supposed to be. Apologize for that.
I had a good cry.
But we also decided to throw some other things in the mix with a new audio setup. No more shotgun pointing in my face.
No more shotgun. And that way, and if anyone's familiar with kind of the limitations for using a shotgun mic for two
Directions.
people. Yeah, it's directions. Ideally, you want to point it kind of right past the path. Yeah, exactly. And George talks a little bit louder. I talk a little bit softer and more sultry.
Yes.
So our voices are very different. So we have two different voices isn't great, and we also didn't have two booms. So what we have now are these nice little lavs.
Hidden in the shirts.
And in Cameron's world, he doesn't like to see lav mics anywhere.
You don't like the big clip right
no,
there
I
on
don't like
the
the
tie
big
or on the
clip.
pocket.
And he's watching an interview or a documentary, and they've got this lav. That's all I can stare at. So please make sure to watch our Epiphan doc and look for the lavs there.
So they're tucked in. So please let us know in the comments if you absolutely hate the audio right now. Our testing seemed to suggest it's okay. But as always,
I won't have to use this sign.
Yeah, no, we fixed that.
Working. Oh, right, we fixed that. Yeah, never mind.
Please throw the comments in there. Hello to everyone watching. We got some people who said hi earlier. Faithful Mess was saying hi earlier. She'll catch it on the playback, so that's awesome. And then we got some other people on Facebook. People watching from Brazil, Ken watching from California. So welcome everyone. Walter was suggesting some, I think, royalty-free music there, social media beats. We'll have to check that out later.
Social media beats.
Yeah, we'll check that out later.
That's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like royalty-free music or something like that.
All right, everyone says it sounds great so far, so that's good.
Awesome, awesome. So we will dive into things.
Yeah, we'll talk about the news.
Talk about NDI. We'll do the host. But first, the news.
The news.
Yeah.
Happy Pi Day, by the way. So George is more into Pi Day and not Pi Day.
I had tortilla for lunch, so.
I was going to impress you with my sweet Pi skills. 3.14, 7871.
You got past 3 digits and I'm not impressed.
You can just make it up. No one actually knows what it is. So you can say, hey, look how impressive I am, and just just ramble off your phone number a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm sure if my father's in chat, he'll lift off like 100 digits or something silly like that, but not me,
You're just gonna
not
copy
this guy.
Paste it into the,
well, I didn't get those genes. So yeah, welcome to everyone again in chat. Samuel saying audio is great as well. Danny saying, so awesome. That's really great.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
One thing's working.
One mistake is avoided.
Oh, man.
Other big news, of course, we've kind of been talking about this one quite a bit for the past few weeks. NAB is coming up very shortly. It's actually starting to cross the point where I'm maybe starting to panic a little.
Getting a little panicky.
Yeah, because
that's not. You're gonna make me panic. You don't panic about anything. So if you're panicking,
so much work to do.
I guess.
Oh, it's crazy. But that show, we're leaving on the 6th. The show runs from the 8th to the 11th. We'll be there in Las Vegas at our booth, South Upper Hall,
Vegas,
something number.
SU1123?
203 or something.
203,
like
there's
that.
a 3 in there.
Yeah.
Check the comments, someone that knows what they're doing
we'll put it in there.
On there.
And I noticed a thread on Reddit earlier today. People were asking about codes to get into NAB for free. We do have one of those. Check out our website.
Did you put our code on?
Did.
Oh, nice.
But there are lots of companies giving those out, of course, not just us. But check out our website, epiphan.com, of course. And we do have a code for you to get your access to the exhibit hall for NAB for free.
I would like to meet the one guy that actually pays to go to NAB.
The one guy.
And be like, why did you pay for this?
One guy.
Why?
Yeah, because it's not cheap.
Well, no, it's not cheap at all. And like everyone gives out
away badges.
Passes. So, why would you ever pay for it?
So if you're that guy paying for it, we'd like to hear from you.
Exactly, and I will buy you a coffee.
A coffee. I'll buy you
NAB.
beer if you're a legal drinking age in America.
There you go. One of those Russell's pretzels. That'd be pretty good.
Exactly.
Well, and actually, speaking of NAB, right now we're entered into a contest. So kind of like our video contest that we had ran earlier, but people entered.
Contest inception? It's now
Yeah,
reversed.
conceptception.
Yeah.
So the contest itself is actually awarding the best video, or the video with the most likes is going to win a whole bunch of digital signage at NAB, which is very expensive. Some additional points for the 2021. I thought it was 2020, but it's the 2021 booth selection, because I think basically by the end of the show, you're already going to have your next year booth picked out.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also includes that, and there's some other perks in there. So please check the links on our website, or sorry, please check the links on the comments. We're going to send out a link to that video. Throw us the thumbs up, and that way, hopefully, we'll have the most thumbs up.
Not the thumbs down, the thumbs up.
Yeah, not the thumbs down. That's the
up.
emperor doesn't want you around anymore.
Yeah,
we want the on with his head.
Yes, yes.
Big thumbs up.
I guess in other news, some of you watching are hopefully members of our Webcaster X2 Facebook group. And I say ours, even though it's not ours. It's a user, customer created, although we are members of it. So we can be there to answer some of your questions.
It's fan powered, and it's a great forum, actually, just checking it out and looking at the comments. And,
yes.
Is it Rat-Attack?
Yeah.
Rat-Attack, that guy. He's always doing
got
something.
Some cool projects.
Hacking, he's voiding warranties left, right, and center.
Doesn't matter.
But,
he's got some cool stuff up there. I'm kind of jealous of some of his kit.
Oh, totally.
I'd love to just play with those Roland mixers for a day, just for fun. But a lot of people there noticed that we rolled out an update to the Webcaster X2. Admittedly, we kind of quietly pushed it out there. We didn't really give people much of a heads up.
Yeah.
And maybe that was our bad, because it actually had some really, really cool stuff in it. And a lot of people noticed. And a lot of people have been sending messages super excited about it.
So what are we talking about? We've got like a new update for the bit rate, right?
So it's twofold. There's two things. One, there's a new higher bit rate setting of 8 megabit. The previous max was 4. So if you're doing 1080 streaming to YouTube, that's big. The difference between 4 meg and 8 meg in terms of video quality at 1080 is, to me, night and day. Like,
and that's the feedback we've seen so far, is like they're not going to go back to 4 meg.
The quality is...
Once you've gone to 8.
Yeah, the quality is fantastic once you go there. Again, your bandwidth requirements double.
That's right, and that's actually something that we should address now.
Yes.
Because 8 megs is not for everybody.
No. By my math, if you're going to use an 8 meg bit rate, you want a bare minimum of consistent 12 meg upload speed, ideally more like 16 if you want to play it safe. So
Comcast users need not apply.
Yeah, if you're running on 9 or 8 or 10 meg, probably still want to stick to 4, sorry. Or shell out for some faster internet.
Well, and if you do have that higher bit rate selected and you don't have the bandwidth for it, it's just going to kill your stream, right? Like the quality is going to drop unless.
Here's the second part of the feature, and that is a reactive bit rate. Essentially, I'm not going to call it an adaptive bit rate, because it isn't an adaptive bit rate. Adaptive bit rates read bandwidth and make adjustments. This is reactive in the sense that it reads if you're dropping packets and then reduces the bit rate as a result. So maybe that's a bit of semantics, but...
Well, and understanding packets as well, right? Like we send the data up, and then YouTube will say if it's coming in properly, because it's a two-way data packet stream.
Yeah. Needless to say, the end result is similar. If you're running into bandwidth issues and you have this reactive bitrate setting turned on, Webcaster will automatically reduce the bit rate in order to compensate. I have seen in some experiments this can be somewhat aggressive in its adjustments. So in some people who have tons of bandwidth, you might just want to turn that off, and you can turn that off in the preferences.
Oh, because it'll just like dive up and down if you have like a lot of bandwidth?
Yeah, just because it is super aggressive, which is great for people who are on the margins, but for people who are safe, maybe it might react a little more negatively than they might like. Not massively, but let's say you can safely do 8, you're doing 8 and it suddenly drops to 4, it might be annoying.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is you can turn it off if you want to, but for those of you running at the margins, it's fantastic, and a lot of people are really loving it.
And test. So
always
set up a test stream with your, like before you go to the venue, go do a tech visit.
You know,
right?
I
Make
was
sure
speaking.
You're familiar with it.
I was speaking a little rant. I have more rants later on, but this is a good one.
There's like half this page is George
I added this
rant,
last minute.
the
Cameron,
Ranty McRant
what?
Rant.
But I was talking to a customer the other day with a Webcaster X2 in a church in the US. They were running a speed test saying they had like 50 meg up, but nothing, even 1 meg would work. Everything was failing. They go, well, we do have this Comcast service that sometimes Comcast allows their public access point sharing through the internet you pay for in your business or residence.
I've paid for this hotspot, and other people are using it.
People can use it. And he's like, yeah, I think they turned that on.
Wow.
Never do that.
So was it parishioners that were at the service?
No, this is just the public.
Like anyone?
Anyone.
Oh, man.
Basically, there's a secret, like a hidden public hotspot thing in some Comcast routers that they just let the public who pay for their whatever service to use. Anyway.
So like all the sinners in the parking lot are using the free Wi-Fi.
This sounds like a terrible idea to me, and if I'm paying for internet from an internet provider, I expect to get what I'm paying for and not to be shared. So if you're someone who's buying service from a company who does that kind of thing, I would be screaming at them, especially if you're trying to do live streaming in a commercial setting, whether that's a church or real commercial. That's going to cause chaos, so don't do that.
Unless you're giving me a discount.
It better be
right? Like I want to
get discount.
I want to get a discount
like
for also giving this bandwidth.
Yeah, it better be free.
Wow.
Anyways,
what's next on the rant list?
I'm going to do a Tim and Sid on you. For
Americans,
you don't get that? You don't have Tim and Sid out west?
What's
Sportsnet?
Tim and Sid? Oh, Sportsnet. No.
Come on, their set's better
It's
than ours.
Sportsnet East.
Oh, well,
there's no Sportsnet west. If I want to watch
That's
the Toronto, all the Ontario teams playing.
There you go. Anyway, for any Canadians in the East watching Tim and Sid, I get a lot of inspiration from them. Their set's great too.
They actually have a really good set. I like the camera that moves back and forth, and the V desk.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, you don't see them looking at each other like this the whole episode.
Anyway,
multiple cameras.
More news, and one of the things that leads directly into today's big topic is the upcoming firmware release for Pearl 2 and Pearl Mini, which we will be talking a lot more about at NAB, and we'll talk a little bit about it today. Adds probably a couple big features to those two products. First one is NDI for Pearl 2. We're really going to dive into that in a minute.
Network data, or network device interface.
Yeah. The next one is Pearl Mini supporting USB devices like webcams and audio devices. So
and what's that acronym again for webcams?
UVC, Universal Video Class.
And that's very cool.
Yeah,
so that means with your Pearl 2, if you want to do a wide shot, if you want to have, like I would consider it kind of being like that extra fun angle that you could do.
Yeah.
And it's just a webcam. Buy one for $15, and then you've got like an outside camera. You could have a big wide shot in the background.
PTZ cameras that are USB that would work. There are document cameras that you might want to use if someone's using paper. You know, there's lots of reasons why this can be beneficial.
Does GoPro do UVC?
No. GoPro only mounts for data. It's different.
All right. Well, never mind.
Ron in the chat was just saying there, Comcast claims their pub Wi-Fi doesn't affect your available bandwidth, but I've always been suspicious. Well, I've seen proof otherwise, so I'm with you on that one, Ron. So anyway, we're going to dive into the NDI stuff more. Last part of my rant, it's mostly just news stuff, things I stumbled across and went, oh, goodness.
Good news, everyone.
So did you pull these links up, or do you want to share
them? Yeah. Well, actually, I could pull it up, but I'm not going to be able to show anybody because I don't have the laptop connected.
All right. So the first one was an interesting article that we stumbled across on TechCrunch. Our colleague Victor actually found this, that, China, always doing fun things with the internet. They're talking about putting limitations on underage live streaming, both I think from a production and consumption standpoint. Basically, they're pulling live streaming is damaging our youth, just like they claimed TV was going to do in our youth. So, I mean, it's China. It's not surprising, but it's fascinating because it's a big thing. Kids all over the place are getting inspiration for live streaming and just playing with it. I mean, in North America especially.
So what is the age that they would consider someone to be old enough to do live streaming?
That's a good question.
Is that,
and I don't think
detailed in here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But this is sort of their cultural protectionism.
Oh, okay, so they're considering banning those under the age of 18 from hosting live videos.
Right. So that's
interesting.
It's interesting. The other one, which plays into this a little bit, is for all you kids out there. I can't do a Don Cherry impression. I wish I could. But this is an article from The Verge. One of Twitch's biggest streamers, Ninja, who many of you have probably heard about in mainstream media a lot, game recently launched called Apex Legends. And EA, the parent company who launched that product, shelled out somewhere in the ballpark of $50 million in promotional money to streamers, one of them being Ninja, who got $1 million in the first 24 hours of the game's release just for playing the game.
Wow.
Easy
That's a lot of money.
money.
That's a lot of money.
Easy. Now, don't get me wrong, Ninja is very well off at this point.
Did he get the highest amount out of everybody?
Don't know.
Don't know? Okay.
Don't
Okay.
know. But the interesting thing here is that, and why I think this ties into the China thing, is that Ninja himself was interviewed in saying, I want kids to recognize that this sort of thing is viable and that your parents shouldn't shut you down if you want to become a game streamer for a living. I'll leave you to your own opinions on that.
Interesting. Yeah, the timing is kind of is right there.
It's interesting.
And where is he's based out of the United States,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are big paydays if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and the same can be argued for professional sports too,
Exactly.
right? Like, what is the tiny percentage of kids in high school are actually going to get into the NHL? Basically the same thing for online gaming, right?
It's becoming that way.
Yeah.
It's becoming that way. So it's interesting. And the last one, and this is just a really good news one that I think is really, really cool, the world of live streaming. Tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the Red Hot Chili Peppers will be live streaming
No way.
from the Pyramids of Giza in
give it away,
Egypt.
give it away, give it away now.
They are one of only 4 or 5 bands to ever play at the Pyramids.
Wow.
They'll be live streaming the event tomorrow afternoon Eastern Time on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
Well, I know what I'm doing tomorrow afternoon.
You better believe it. I've seen them live. They're fantastic.
That is
anyway,
really
it's
cool.
very cool, and that's just like, hey, we're doing it.
Nice.
So that's very cool.
I wonder if they're going to make them change any of their lyrics.
I don't know.
Because that happened on the
Tune in
Johnny,
to
the
find
Johnny
out.
Carson show,
Yeah,
I
it
think.
did,
They had
it
to
did,
change...
yeah.
We
They
did
might-
a watch party.
Yeah, they
Yeah, we
might
could do a watch
not-
party.
They might not do this one naked.
Well, you know, it can get a little hot.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
sandy. Once you get
exactly.
that,
They do have
that
their
Giza
sauce.
sand.
Yeah,
in
they're
there.
known
Yeah,
for
they're-
that.
they're
thing. But anyway, for anyone who's a fan of the Chili
Uh.
Peppers, I highly recommend you could check it out. Their website obviously has it. Their YouTube channel will have it. Their Facebook, blah, blah, blah. So
Have you seen how much the drummer hates to be called Will Ferrell's brother?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it's funny. It's
and it
so
always
funny.
comes up.
I love that.
So that's sort of my news. Let's dive into the techie stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about NDI. So as part of our 4.8 release, we're going
Yes.
to be introducing NDI into
NDI.
Perl 2. Pearls.
Network device interface.
Yeah, and then interface.
Yeah.
So the network device interface. Now this is a technology that was developed by NewTek.
Yes.
And they've got a couple of different avenues that you can access this technology.
Yes.
For the most part, users can access it for free. So the tools are free. You can add it to some devices for free. I could say, let's get into the details about that.
So there's two
I made
types.
the mistake of thinking it was royalty free, but it's not.
Well, yeah, so we had this big discussion the other day about it. Let's break it down. There's 2 types of NDI, regular NDI and NDI HX.
Right. Oh, okay. And those that's the different compression rates, right? Or for the codec itself.
Exactly. HX basically uses H.264, as many streaming protocols do. So it's the more compressed, but it's higher efficiency for hardware devices that are already optimized for doing H.264.
Right. So your camcorders.
Built into a camera.
Yeah.
But then that's where it comes into this 2 other breakdown. NDI is royalty free, but is not open source.
Right.
HX is often, not always, but often used on embedded devices. The embedded device version is not royalty free. That is a paid
Right.
royalty system. Now, that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand. You could have an embedded device with regular NDI, that would be royalty. You could have HX on a non-embedded device, and that would be non-royalty. So it's a bit confusing.
Well, and it makes sense in the fact that NewTek makes these devices.
They do make some
right?
of their
so
own
they make
devices.
some of these
Yes.
NDI encoding devices.
Yes.
So you wouldn't want to develop this technology and kind of give that away and lose your opportunity. You know, you kind of cannibalize your own market.
And that's
doing
why,
that.
even though the usual type is royalty free, it's not open source. You have to use NewTek's SDK as they provide it. Period.
Totally. And there's no changes to that. You can't. There's no like big customer forum where
Exactly.
you can
It
suggest
is
new
what they give
updates.
you, and you leverage it the best you can, and that's
Cool.
it.
And
the
so
good
we're
news-
using NDI in the sense
Well-
that a computer would.
Right. So Perl is not an embedded device technically by definition.
Mm-hmm.
They break it down by anything that is x86 processor based, which is basically computers, are royalty free. If it's embedded, ARM processors, embedded systems, like phones,
baked into the technology,
baked into a PTZ camera,
yeah,
that would cost a royalty. So you'll see they'll cost a little more. With Pearl 2, we will be accepting on the input regular NDI or NDI HX.
Right.
And Pearl 2 will be able to output regular NDI. So this gives us a lot of possibilities to bring in a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, different
and
sources.
feed out to different stuff. And that's where NDI starts to get interesting, is
very
the
interesting
stuff.
Well, and so you can have all this communication on your own network via Ethernet, because you already have that baked into your company, right? Like you've already got that, you have it set up. You don't have SDI cables running through all the walls, and HDMI cables running through everywhere. You have this network already that's set up.
My impression is that's kind of where the technology started, was let's stop running a spider web mess of SDI cables everywhere. The studio spaces already have network cables running everywhere anyways. Let's just leverage that. Let's clean everything up. Let's minimize how much we're running around. Let's just run everything over Ethernet. But we need a technology that will deliver it in essentially the same effective manner. And that's what regular NDI can do. It's designed to be very low latency, virtually no latency, 1 or 2 frames max. Very, very low compression. So typical 1080 is about 125, 150 megabit per second, which is a big bit rate for anything over other than a local network.
Totally.
HX was designed to be the higher efficiency systems that are designed for that, so it's H.264.
And with the encoding and decoding, it's going to add more latency to it. Now, one of the things that we're going to be using, or actually one of the things that we've set up today to actually leverage NDI is
an experiment.
Yeah, it is an experiment.
Asterisk,
so we're still in the beta phase. There's lots of other technology that's applicable for it, but we chose to focus on Skype today because Skype is actually one of the challenges that we have when we're bringing a guest in, because of the fact that we use another computer, we have to bring the signal in, bring the signal back out. It's just this huge mess of cables.
So now we're excited.
Yeah, so now we're excited, and we're actually able to cut that in half. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go to...
See if we can bring him in
we're going to go to Matt.
From a secret location.
He's in our
special
secret
guest today.
location.
Drum roll. Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey,
hey, what's going on, guys?
Frozen?
No, he's just goofing on us. Oh, he's killing us.
Oh, Matthew.
So Matt's in our secret location, joining us through Skype, through NDI.
Through NDI.
Directly into our Pearl, and ta-da. So what this means is that we're not doing scaling and cropping and HDMI inputs like we were when you've seen our guests before. The other thing is that it helps Matt to get sort of a different feedback of what's happening as well. So it's pretty interesting, actually.
Well, and the output from the laptop is still similar.
Yeah.
So, or sorry, the input into the laptop is still similar. So what we're doing is we have an AVIO that's connected to one of the outputs on our Pearl 2, and of course that carries video and audio, and that's feeding through to Skype. So that Matt can see us.
On Matt's side, he's using an AVIO into a computer as well.
Exactly. But bringing it in, it's just over NDI.
Exactly.
Which we don't have to do that import, and like you said, we don't have to crop it. We don't have to find it on the screen, and it's actually it was very easy to set up that way.
But Skype's not the only software option. There's a lot of different options. So there is a phone app from NewTek that you can use your phone as an NDI camera. I will warn you, that app is not cheap. But that is one thing you can do.
Anything over $2 isn't cheap when it comes to an app.
I'm an Android user. I expect these things to be free. It's not. It's about $27 Canadian. But there's an Android one, there's an iOS one, but there's also a free downloadable toolkit for computers for NDI so that you can add in plugins to other software, but also just use your computer as an NDI source. So if someone wants to maybe do a presentation, you could bring that in. Instead of using the video outputs and all this stuff, you just use NDI if the person has that stuff already installed. It helps you with plugins in various ways. I was experimenting with OBS the other day. There's a plugin for OBS for NDI.
And titling as well, right?
Some titling software. vMix supports NDI.
Now, Matt, or sorry, I was going to ask Matt a question, but it's all good.
But that's okay.
Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Welcome back.
You're welcome.
Why don't you just say,
I'm happy just to be that face in the background.
Now, I was going to say, we did some experimentation as well with Adobe Creative Cloud, and that can also be brought in over NDI, which is really cool. But I won't keep you any longer, Matt. Thank you very much. Couldn't have done it without you.
So I'm going to look at just a couple of questions we had coming in here from our chat. Walter was just saying that he hopes the chili peppers don't wake the aliens. So that's a good question. And Fixed Assets was saying they have NDI projectors going into the school campuses.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is a great example of some of the ways that the NDI ecosystem can play a role in a whole bunch of different stuff. So traditionally, if you wanted to bring a projector feed into Pearl and live stream and record that, you would need to run all the wires and splitters and DAs, all this stuff. With NDI, you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, because the network's already there. You've already got the Ethernet jack, right?
Pearl can just, whatever your NDI source is that's sending it to the projector, well, that's fine. Pearl can take NDI from the same source and throw that in.
And that being said, and I don't know if maybe you don't know the answer to this, but does that mean that some kid is now going to be able to like hijack the projector feed?
No, because it's not automated.
Okay.
There is some level of
and there was security, right? Like I think there's some
ways.
There's some NDI security.
There's group names you have to put in if you want to help filter it out. If it doesn't really route very well across subnets. So
well, yeah, as we found when we were setting it up today.
Right, and presumably a school network infrastructure is not the same as the school network for students to use.
Right. So you have the facility, and then you have like the
Wi-Fi
guest
base. Yeah, usually these are very separate.
Okay.
For good reason.
One thing when I was setting up Skype that I thought was really interesting was that there's a huge bar at the top on Skype. So after you turn NDI on and then you actually initiate a Skype call that's feeding out via NDI, Skype is very clear to warn you that Epiphan is using this SDI signal and it could be broadcast or it could be recorded. Yeah. Because that's something that now you have to consider, right? Like you're putting the signal out, you're throwing it out onto the network.
Exactly.
Anyone with a tuner can tune into it.
Yeah, exactly. So it is great technology. There's a lot of potential there. You were experimenting with NewBlueFX, which is titling software we've used before, usually with an HDMI output from a computer.
Yeah.
You were playing with it over NDI, which has some interesting applications as well.
It has some very cool applications. For us, what we could do is we could use that for social media chat, so we could have our social media comments pop up and down. We can also introduce some motion lower third graphics, which would be really cool. We could do graphics on the show, have those fly in. There's a lot of cool applications when it comes to that software specifically, and like just a little bit of testing absolutely just scratched the surface on it. So they were very kind. They hooked us up with a license to play with, and we're definitely going to circle back and have them on a future episode.
Yeah, because their software is pretty powerful, but it's one of those pieces that's like the sky's the limit, but to get there is like, ooh, it's a bit tricky if you don't spend some time, and I'm sure they have some tips on speeding that learning curve up.
Totally.
But I think that, for me, is one of the most interesting possibilities with NDI, is to just bring in these other little bits and just bring that in easily from network sources.
Well, NewTek also has a suite of tools. I think you were kind of referring to that earlier. They have the computer.
When I installed them on my laptop, I haven't played with them a whole lot yet. I was mostly just playing with OBS to do it that way.
Because the scan converter is the one that I was testing out as well. And that one's very powerful. You can, on a PC version, you can pick the region of your screen. You can broadcast that. For the Mac version, you can just pick a specific window. So right now what we do when we want to share... Well, when we want to share something on the show, we have to just show the whole HDMI out. Right. We don't have any control over what's going on there, like on a very granular level for the windows. So what you can do is you can specify a window, and that's the only thing that you're sharing. You even have the option to turn your mouse on and off, which is very cool, right? Because you may not want to have your mouse showing on the screen.
That guy stumbling around with his cursor. Oh, where do I go again?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, so curiously though, I wasn't able to select QuickTime as a source within that. So I think there's something within QuickTime that was blocking it. But then again, you can just open up a video in your web browser and then share that one.
Interesting. Curious about that, because I'm wondering if that ties into Apple's obsession with copyright protection in HDCP. Because you could be playing a Blu-ray or something in QuickTime.
I know you have to use the DVD player for that, or like the Blu-ray player.
And I'm wondering if they're doing it to prevent that. Because if you could capture QuickTime that's playing copyrighted content and send it over NDI, you could record it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You record it. You can send it to that projector at the university.
Deep thoughts. So I think some of the highlights are, wire your studio with just Ethernet. Don't need all this extra stuff.
Pull out all those SDK cables or the SDI cables they have running around.
You were also playing with Adobe Creative Cloud.
Yeah, that's right.
Has plugins for NDI.
So any of our users, or sorry, our viewers may remember an episode we did way back with
about unicorns.
character, with unicorns and little poop emojis, or it wasn't a poop emoji, it was like this weird alien shape.
Strange characters.
And we had
should have done the poop emoji.
I did the head wrong on the Terrence and Phillip character, so I had to pivot on the wrong side. But that one you can bring it in directly via NDI as well.
Right.
And that way, because we were limited, of course, with our setup, that we had to have. I was just off camera, had to be really close. But with that one, you could run that from another building or another part of your building,
as long as it's on
another
network,
office. Yeah, exactly.
So
we could port Matt in from that studio, have an isolated space, and kind of run it like Skype.
Yeah, exactly. The camera app, there are a lot of cameras starting to build NDI in. Our friends over at PTZ Optics have PTZ cameras with it.
And we, of course, have PTZ control now, too. Ooh.
Not yet.
Eject button.
That's in testing. And that was Cameron's last day
data
at
features.
It's the problem when you play with these things. You start to lose control.
Yeah, I loaded up a beta load onto our Pearl and probably saw more than I should have.
Yeah, things in the works. More to come later. Skype, let's see. With those tools, you can also do virtual webcam stuff through NDI. So if you wanted to use other tools like Zoom or WebEx or whatever, you can use NDI sources as virtual webcams. So that means you could bring in a Pearl as your webcam source over NDI into some of these video conferencing tools.
Well, that'd be a huge benefit, especially for people that are watching remotely, and you're not stuck with just that one webcam angle.
Exactly.
You're actually watching what's being switched.
They'd see all the mix, all the switch. You're doing your recording. You're also doing your live streaming side. So there's a lot of really cool potential there. So we're really excited to see how our users leverage this and what they do with it. This has been something we've been working on for quite a while. It's been asked quite a bit, and so we're excited to get it out there. So we will be demonstrating it in the booth at NAB.
Cool.
We'll have a new Tech Spark, I think, we're going to play with, and of course just some other stuff as well.
Yeah, I actually meant to grab one of those just to show it off.
Yeah, it's over there in the pile of things we're panicking about trying to get in boxes and shipped.
Yeah, Yusufa has it for a massive NAB setup.
Yeah.
It'd be crates and crates of gear heading down there. The booth actually looks really cool. I'm excited to see that.
No, it should be good. So I was going to take a look at chat here to see if there's any questions. I see Ron saying Apple will fix that in the next update. I assume you're referring to HDCP. I hope so, because it's been a pain in my rear end. The number of calls I take on that daily just kills me. Apple used to be very good at being context aware. Apparently they just decided to throw that out the window. So hopefully, Ron, you're right, and they do address that, because it's a killer.
This comment from Fixed Assets is funny. I'm guessing that you watched the show with Oakley and Crusoe where I couldn't get their names right.
Yeah, Cameron does that.
Once I get imprinted with a name, it's just all over, Frank.
It's so
weird.
Especially if you write it and then you're stuck with it forever.
Oh, yeah, and then it's like they get a lobotomy to cut that out of there.
Yeah, that's true. So, if there's any questions
about these aliens and the pyramids, though.
Oh man, don't go down that dark hole of YouTube. You're going to be in big trouble. So if there's any questions you guys have about NDI, please throw them in chat. We'll take a look at them. Otherwise, you can always email us, and we're happy to chat with you about that. If you're going to be attending NAB, we're happy to chat about NDI there as well and show you some of the other stuff. We've got the stuff with Crestron control driver that's out there now publicly.
That's going to be very cool.
So we'll be showing that. Yeah, Walter's saying, any good tutorials integrating Skype with NDI? Not that I've found yet. We found an awesome one from vMix.
Yep, that's right.
Theirs is great. Skype I haven't seen yet, and so far, I wouldn't say we should make our own, because this experience has not gone well today.
You know, I was kind of hedging up on saying that, and maybe we could do a spotlight on that, and then little Cameron inside said, no. Little Cameron here, no, don't do it.
It'll get better. It's fairly new. So it started with just Skype for Business, and then they added it to regular Skype more recently. So I have a feeling that between ours not being finished yet, it's still in a beta state,
work in progress.
And Skype is permanently in a beta state. Probably there's some funny things there. I hate Skype. Anyway.
Tell us how you really feel.
People have known that before.
We have a question from Brian.
Brian Cote. Is the Pearl NDI enabled now? No, not yet, Brian. That will be available in the 4.8 firmware release, which will be coming out in the week or two following NAB, so mid-April.
That's right.
So right now, we're leveraging it on our Pearl 2 here in our studio in a beta state. Our QA team is kicking it around and beating the heck out of it, trying to make sure we find everything before we finalize and release it.
Well, I came across a couple of issues today that'll get escalated as well.
So there's still a few little things to iron out, but within a month, it should be good to go.
Oh man, is NAB less than a month away?
That's why I'm panicking. Exactly. George Birchall, yes, we can hear you on the other side of the wall too, snickering to yourself. What, Skype releases an imperfect product? Yeah, exactly.
I like George's comment earlier that our booth number is 3.14.
But it's not.
But yeah, I thought it was clever.
But it's not.
Ugh. It's SU 3.14.
No, it's not. It's SU 11203 or something.
Pie charts.
There's no 3s or 4s.
SU 11203.
That's what I thought.
SU 11203.
See, I wrote it down once today. Now I have it memorized.
Did you remember the URL too? What's the URL for NAB? Epiphan.com/shows/NAB-
Epiphan.com. Well, just saying, what about an AVIO with NDI? No immediate plans for that because it's very, very different type of device to go from video input straight to network. It's essentially an encoder.
Well, and then AVIO with
that's basically
NDI.
what the Spark does.
It is what the Spark does.
And that would not be a royalty-free product.
Exactly. So we would have to pay royalties on that one.
Money.
So we'd have to see kind of what the projected market value would be for that.
You only have to look at the other ones that are on the market. The Spark and Bird Dogs, they're all $500 to $1,000, $500 to $1,000, most of them. And part of that is going to be those royalty costs. And part of it's going to be hardware. So it wouldn't be an inexpensive device if we were to do one. So that's something we have to consider, considering that there's already the NewTek's own devices that do the same thing, Bird Dog, some of the others out there.
Well, and a lot of devices moving forward, like cameras, switchers, they're just going to have it built in.
Yeah.
So we don't want to add.
And if it's computers, you can do the software for free. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So interesting idea, Walter, and we have kicked that around a little, but nothing that we have planned at the moment.
Now, going way back on the chat.
Way back.
Any news, from Life as Moe's, any news on the Webcaster X3?
No.
No. Yeah, that's a no.
Sorry. Nothing exciting to report there.
Say we could call it a triple caster.
Right.
But yeah, that would be, we're edging up really close on that one.
But I can say, sort of as a follow-up to that and what we were talking about earlier with updates to Webcaster X2, there will be another update to Webcaster X2 coming very, 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 very soon, possibly only within days. This update for Facebook users is absolutely required and mandatory. You will not be able to skip this update if you want to continue to use a Webcaster with Facebook Live. Fair warning.
Yeah. If you don't want to continue using Facebook,
then don't do it.
Don't update. Problem solved.
Yeah. Well, saying, can NDI access your webcam? Through the software plugins, it could, yes. There are ways of using your webcam through that software and sending it out as NDI. There's ways of doing that. But natively, by default, without work, no one's going to spy on your webcam over NDI without you doing something if that's what you're worried about. Of course, you can always do the Post-it note over the lens like everyone seems to do.
Gaffer
gaff tape,
yeah.
These conspiracy theory freaks anyways.
Hey, man. Well, of course you're familiar with the FaceTime bug, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not an Apple user.
Not an Apple user.
I don't have these problems.
So Facebook announced that there was a glitch with FaceTime, and they encouraged everyone just to deactivate FaceTime.
Yeah.
You can actually hear the person you were calling before you called them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how it could have worked if you clicked on their
There's
contact.
a bunch of hacking ways to find information.
Yeah, so like before the call actually started, you could hear them, or before they accepted the call, maybe when it was when it was ringing. But what does that mean? The light didn't turn on. There was no indicator.
It's pretty creepy. People could spy on you.
So,
people could spy.
But whatever.
They fixed it.
Are you that interesting? Are you really that interesting?
I'm not.
That anyone wants to spy on you?
All right, so to our sheet. Is there anything else interesting on here we didn't mention? Any other questions in the chats? No, not at the moment. Walter's saying, no, just racking my brains for different solutions. Yeah, me too. This opens a lot of possibilities with the Pearl 2, and so we're super excited to see, like I say, where it goes and how people use it. So anybody out there in the chat right now who's a Pearl 2 owner at the moment, when you do this update, if you start playing with NDI, post in our forums, send us emails, whatever, with what you're doing, what you've experimented with, and how it worked out for you. We want to hear about it. So, yeah.
And not only so that we can steal your ideas and put them onto the live show, but featuring that content and holding it up for everyone else to see would be really cool, too.
Glenn was saying, is there a practical way to get an NDI feed converted to SDI or HDMI? I believe there are NDI player boxes, but I haven't experimented.
So is that to take it down from NDI and then put it out?
Yeah.
And is that not what the Spark would do? Like the Spark is one way and not two ways?
I don't know. I haven't played with it yet.
Yeah, I would have to experiment with that. Now, you could, I mean, what you could do is you could use the Monitor app or the...
Yes.
Is it the Monitor app? Is that what it's called?
There is a Monitor app.
Yeah, so there's like an NDI...
Monitor app.
Yeah, video monitor from NewTek.
Yeah.
So what you could do is you could tune into that on a laptop and then just plug HDMI and then run that through.
But honestly, the toolkit for your computer is probably a great way to start because there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Like I said, anyone who's a fan of OBS, the plugin for that is pretty basic, but it does have some cool stuff you can play around with. So yeah, both input and output again. So it's ways of playing with things. But I think that'll pretty much wrap it for today. This episode ended up longer than I think we originally planned.
Much longer. 3.14 minutes longer.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Next week, what do we have next week, Cameron?
So next week we're going to be talking about the best live streaming software for 2019.
Interesting.
So we're going to be taking a look back. We actually covered this in 2018.
Yep.
But like everything else, we're just going to reuse it and repeat it, right? We're following this
should be
the
more
Hollywood studio system here.
Yeah.
So
it might be more interesting because I'm not going to be here. I didn't tell you that part yet.
What? So it'll be a pre-recorded episode on where are you going next week?
I'm on a training course next week.
Oh, okay. So, you're doing that like how to be nice to your coworkers training course?
Yeah, HR mandated.
HR mandated. How to deal with your rage.
Yeah, exactly.
They just keep calling about DHCP.
Yeah. No, it's no. There'll be so I won't be here on Thursday or Friday.
All right. Well,
so.
good to know. Yeah. Good to know. So Lisa will be on the show with us next week.
No, shot not. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. We will have that interesting one. Live streaming software stuff's always exciting for our viewers, so tune in for that one.
And don't forget to send us a like on our video that we have in the NAB contest. And again, there will be a link
in
for
there,
that.
I think. Yes, there it is. There is a link. If you scroll back up a little ways, there is the link there. We'll post it again. Vote here with the video link. Thumbs up. That's all we need. Thumbs up.
I'll add it to the show link.
Yeah.
And if you haven't subscribed already to this channel, please make sure to do so on the show.
Like, comment, subscribe, do all those socially things that all the YouTubers say.
Yeah,
do
the stuff.
Everyone knows.
All right, well, thanks again for watching. Happy Pi Day.
Thanks, everyone.